Okay, thank you. So if you ignore the missing top line, I'm not talking about, work I've done. This is more about a proposal for something. So the Carse of Stirling, come on to the geographically in a minute, just a couple of my favourite groups of species here, dragonflies on the one side and reptiles and amphibians on the other. This is a snake, an adder just on the north side of the Flanders moss. So I recently, in addition to some of the other voluntary things, got involved in a community-based organisation called the Carse of Stirling Partnership. And I realised that although I live, where are we? Down here on the southern side of the Carse of Stirling, and although I volunteered to do dragonfly surveys and I actually spent time out in Flanders moss as well, I suddenly thought, what do I actually know about the rest of the Carse of Stirling? You know, it's a biggish area. We all know about Flanders moss. You've heard a little more from Emma there about Flanders moss. But what do I know about it, and how can I get more involved in what's going on there? So I then went on to the NatureScot, really nice software. You can go on their website, you can go on there and you can layer it. So you can put in, I've only shown SSIs here, you can put in national parks, you can put in NNRs, LNRs, special areas of conservation, etc. And of course, Flanders moss is everything. NNR, SSI, SAC, BDS, dragonfly hotspot, all sorts of stuff. And the River Teeth is a special area of conservation, but just to keep it simple with the SSIs. So we can see Flanders moss up here, which is, I think we reckon it's 9 square kilometres of raised bog. But there are several other boggy SSIs as well. We have a few of them sitting close to it. I'll come to a map in a minute. A few of them very close, and then getting slightly further away, there's another bit of raised bog here, another bit of raised bog down here. There's a fen area here, Canary Fens. And then there's another one called Ochtertar moss, which is a little bit isolated. And that was one of the first ones that got me interested. I'm sure you're all the same. You look at an Ordnance Survey map, you spot little blue circles, or you think, well, there's ponds there, I'm going to go and have a look. So, zooming in a little bit more, as well as noticing the boggy SSIs, you start to look at the gaps in between and think, well, what's in the gaps? Or is there connectivity? Are there things in the way that are going to stop animals, plants moving in between? And of course, we have to decide what kind of animals and plants we're interested in. Fortunately, dragonflies are moderately mobile, as are birds. But if you're a small plant with or a non-flying insect, some of those gaps may be difficult to bridge. So apart from Ochtertar, which I mentioned, which is 8 kilometres out that way, what's going on in between here and here? And what about the non-SSI, non-SSI land in between? Is there connectivity there? Oops, sorry. And I started looking particularly at this area, and it's kind of peculiar. So the recorded talk earlier, someone was showing all the different, what maps you can look at satellites and look at all sorts of different things. If you look at the Ordnance Survey map, which is a few years old, this all looks like plantation forestry. And you're thinking, well, that's a big barrier between the 3 SSIs around it. If you start looking at the Google Earth or satellite pictures, it doesn't really look like plantation forestry anymore. So what's going on there? And what's going on there is it's now run by Forestry and Land Scotland, and it's a very big peatland restoration area. Again, another of these total, I forget, several square kilometres. I think the whole area here, again, is in the order of 9 square kilometres. And so some of it is being clear felled, some of it is being clear felled. Some bits they're leaving because there are red squirrel populations on pause sites. And a lot of the work will involve damming ditches, all the kind of things we like to hear about when we're thinking about dragonflies. They also have, oops, so blocked by this little thing, a local management plan. So these are 10, oops, that's gone off the edge of the slide. These are 10-year management plans for the local area. So I thought, I went to have a look at 1 or 2 of these sites. I went to Loch McCanry Fens and Ochtertar, and I thought I'm going to go and have a look at this. And I turned up to find FLS hard at work. So I went in, so I'll go back one. I went along this path here, which anybody can follow. There's an old railway line, now a cycle track and path that goes right the way through from south up to the northwest. So I started walking up here. This was in February this year, and I found the diggers hard at work. You can see probably most easily in the second photograph. I think he's making bunds. I wasn't entirely clear, but I think he's making bunds. And this is the area marked for, I presume these pines hadn't been growing very well, marked for mulching. And these all look like little ripped off stems of not very well growing pines. And then I walked further up the track and I found some nice dam ditches, peat dam ditches, all look fairly new, not much sphagnum in them, but next few years could be interesting. A little bit further up on the other side of the track, oh, so this whole area is lacking trees. They've all been clear felled there. And up here I found this really nice looking pond. Looks like it's been made out of an old trackway, and this is something the order of 50 meters long, 10 meters wide, and it looks like it's full of various sphagnum mosses. I certainly couldn't get into it in my wellies. I was going over the edge just trying to walk around it. Where are we? So if we start to think a little bit about the connectivity between these different areas, of course, I mentioned Auchtertyre is a little bit of an orphan. It's 8 kilometres away with 3 B roads and a load of fields in between it and Flanders Moss, but a couple of the others are very close, some 1 or 2 kilometres. And those 3 that are around the FLS area, which they call Fourth Mosses, are actually, if not well connected already, hopefully will be well connected by the time that all of this peatland restoration takes place. So the formatting's going to be a bit funny. So I then started looking at the records on NNR and on iRecord. And you'll see that Flanders Moss has been surveyed quite a lot. For all species, there are about 9,000 records. It depends exactly how you draw the polygon around the SSSI. And if we look at dragonflies with 400 records over many years, and obviously one record may consist of one dragonfly, it may consist of 100, depends how many you see on the day. So it's a lot more than 400 individuals. 12 species recorded. Funnily, this is something's happened in the translation from one computer to another one. You'll see that. When we get down to the FLS area, it's actually got almost the second highest. No, sorry, something's lost off the bottom here. We've lost about 3 or 4 lines off the bottom that have just disappeared. Okay, I'll just talk through it. Don't worry about it. So the other SSSIs have all got, some cases moderate, hundreds of records, in some cases very few. And actually the FLS land, which I mentioned, which is somewhere down here, has had quite a few dragonfly records recently. I think they've been doing insect surveys as part of the peatland regeneration. Something like 7 or 8 species have been recorded in there. If we look at the others, there are very few dragonfly records. Auchtertyre moss, which is also unfortunately dipped off there, has some records from a BDS survey in 1983, and then since then about 3 or 4 others. And there's one area where I can almost guarantee you that there are dragonflies, and that one has also Loch McAnry Fens. Sorry about this slide, it's just gone haywire. So Loch McAnry Fens has quite a lot of plant records, 0 dragonfly records. Now, I would almost eat my proverbial hat if there aren't dragonflies in this place. There's a small lochen, a woodland at one side of it, reeds around it, a nice long ditch leading off it, and there was a white-tailed eagle flying around it when I arrived. And a lady who was the former head of wetlands for Nature Scott said that when she was doing plant surveys there were dragonflies flying around her. So there's a lot to find out about what's going on all of these boggy areas around Flanders Moss, as well as what we know from Flanders Moss. But sorry, you ain't going to see much of it from that slide. Don't know what happened to that at all. So my questions and what I would like to look at in a project, stick to the ones in bold, because these are the ones you can get answers to. The rest are more question of interpretation. So what's the current distribution of dragonflies across the Carse of Stirling, SSSIs and Fourth Mosses? One question, sub-question there would be, is the northern emerald present anywhere on the Carse of Stirling apart from Flanders moss triple SI? Flanders moss is the most southeasterly site for that species in Scotland, but it looks like there could be others if we survey these triple SIs. Another question, which is a little bit of interest to me, Henry, the southern hawker has been moving northwards over the years. It's now quite well distributed around some parts of Scotland. It's not been observed on Flanders moss or anywhere else in that area, but just outside the boggy areas, in our little village in Gorgunnock, we built some wildlife ponds and they started laying eggs there 6 weeks after the water went in. They've also been seen in Doon, which is on the other side out of the water. Now, I did see one hawker flying around on a farm just on the edge of Flanders moss, which might well have been a southern hawker, but you know what they're like, they fly around and they don't come down, and if you don't get close up and see it, I'm not going to make a guess at the ID. What about the long-term monitoring of what FLS are doing on the Forth Mosses? This is several square kilometres of what could turn out to be nice peatland once it's restored. And also, even on Flanders moss, over on the northwest corner, there's quite a lot of bunds and ditches gone in. It'd be nice to monitor them and look at colonisation of those as time goes on. Probably a little bit too much detail here, but just to think about the scale of work that would be involved. So there are, apart from Flanders moss, there are 7 triple SIs and the FLS area. Really, to do a proper survey, you're looking at about 4 visits a year on sunny days, which we basically hardly got last year. Ideally, survey each place twice just to make sure you've done adequate coverage. That's starting to add up to quite a lot. So if any of you know, or anybody in the audience lives, say, somewhere between here and Glasgow and is interested in boggy triple SIs, and you've got pair of wellies and a reasonable camera, very welcome. If you know anyone else who fits into that category, again, very welcome. You can get in touch with me through Danielle. I've already been talking quite nice reaction from FLS. Daniel put me in touch with Katie. Katie.
It's not Freeman, because that's her maiden name.
Katie
Anderson, is it?
Anderson, that's the one. The environmental forester at FLS. She's been helpful. I'm also working with Nature Scott. Stuart Bence is looking at some of those access things that are GDPR issues. They can't give you out all the contact details for the site managers. They have to go and talk to them and see whether they're willing to let you park at their farm or whatever is involved. Wouldn't actually need any money, just be much easier with 1 or 2 additional people also willing to wander around boggy areas with a camera and a pair of wellies in the summer. And just a bit, how's time going?
I think you loads of time.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly flick through the species that are found. Obviously, one of the reasons I carry a camera rather than just trying to count damselflies is the vast majority of the little blueies I'm seeing are azure damselflies. Some of them are common blues, and I can't tell them apart without some photographs. So I just tend to take lots of photographs and then work out proportions afterwards from the photographs. Also see blue tails, emeralds, large reds, common darters and black darters, common hawkers, and probably southern hawkers at some point, most easily distinguished by the rather larger yellow markers on the front of the thorax. Northern emerald, which I would still haven't seen yet because I've not been doing surveys at Flanders moss. Emma's the one who's been lucky enough to see all of these. Golden ringed, dragonflies. And there's an interesting observation to the broad-bodied chasers and other species that's been moving up sort of via the east coast of Scotland. And there are 3 records of 3 individuals in this area. One was a male actually on Flanders moss, and then a male and a female at our little village wildlife ponds in Gorgunnock. And we do have a photograph of the female, so it was definitely that species. So will that species also move into Flanders moss as well, or is it not something that's going to like that kind of acid habitat? And of course, it's relatively easy to tell apart from the only other one that's of similar taxonomic origin, the four-spotted chaser.